Hey y'all, and welcome back to day 12 of our September Bible Challenge. Thank y'all for being so patient with me the last couple of days. I was not able to do the video the last 2 days, so we're catching up today. So it's going to be a jam-packed video, and I'm going to just go ahead and get right into this in just a second to make sure we have time to get through all 3 chapters. If we need to do a part 2, I will, but I'm going to try to get it all in this one video. If you're just following along this month, for the month of September, we are reading the book of 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel has 24 chapters, so we're reading a chapter a day, Monday through Friday. I do take Saturdays and Sundays off from the daily devotion videos on here, but every day, Monday through Friday, I will come on here and do a video about whatever chapter we're reading for that day. We are going to double up a couple of chapters towards the end of the month, but I'll let you know before we do that. And then all of these videos are also saved in a playlist on my page titled the September Bible Challenge. If you want to go and watch any of those that we've already done, or just jump in here with us today for chapters 8, 9, and 10. So let's go ahead and get into this. I'm filming outside today because it is so nice here in South Carolina where we live. The weather, it feels perfect. There's a nice little breeze. The temperature is just right. So why not do this one outside today? But let's go ahead and get into these 3 chapters. So in chapter 8, David attacked the Philistines and subdued them. And after the Philistines, they had troubled Israel for centuries. So after centuries, David finally attacked them and subdued them. And then David took the city of Metheg-Ammah, which was also known as Gath. So the Philistines had been taking territory from Israel. For years, they'd been taking territory from Israel. But under David's leadership, the Israelites began to take that territory back. And then it talks about how David defeated Moab. And this war seemed kind of out of place considering that David's great-grandmother was a Moabite. And David had entrusted his mother and father into the care of the Moabites. And so it may have been that the Moabites had killed or mistreated David's parents. I don't know, but this was a little just out of place here. But then David also talked about how he conquered Hadadezer. I'm not sure if I said that right. But as he went to recover his territory at the Euphrates River. And so neighboring nations saw the hand of God on David, and they brought him honor and gifts. And they knew that a strong, godly leader of Israel was good, not just for Israel, but for the community of nations surrounding Israel also. And so when David received this acclaim from them, he dedicated it all to the Lord. And he knew that the praise and glory belonged to God, not to him. And God used David to lead Israel to victory over enemies in every direction. And the Lord preserved David wherever he went. Every victory and every enemy subdued was a testimony to the Lord's, his preserving power in the life and the reign as king of David. So that was chapter 8. Then as we move on to chapter 9, we see that David had a really kind heart. David had a kind heart towards the house of Saul. He wanted to know, he asked if anyone was left from the house of Saul that he could show kindness to for Jonathan's sake. And we've talked about Jonathan and how him and Jonathan were very close friends, how they had made a covenant together. So he did all of this. He asked this and did all of this that we read about in this chapter because of his friendship with Jonathan, who was also King Saul's son. And he also did it on the promise of the covenant that he made with Jonathan. So David learns of Mephibosheth, and that was Jonathan's son, and he sent messengers to bring him back to him. And so Mephibosheth had many reasons to fear David, but David told him not to fear, that he would show him kindness for Jonathan's sake. And David promised him that he would receive what was his. And he told him he would eat bread at his table continually. And so he gave Mephibosheth the honor of a close relationship with him, with the king. And then Mephibosheth didn't feel worthy. He didn't feel worthy of this generosity that David was showing him. But in addition to the land that David gave to Mephibosheth, he even gave him servants to work the land. And this chapter ended by talking about how Mephibosheth, he no longer had to hide in fear of David. And he now lived in Jerusalem, and he ate continually at the king's table. So now he's there with David. And then we move into chapter 10. So in chapter 10, David was showing kindness again, this time to the Ammonites, as after he heard about the passing of their king. And so David sent his servants to Hanun, who was the son of the king who had just died. So he had just stepped in as king. But he sent his servants to him to provide comfort. Well, Hanun, who is now the king, he listened to his advisors around him. When they saw David's servants coming, they went to him and they said that David's men weren't there to really comfort him, but they were coming to search the city, to spy it out, to overthrow it. So they thought they were coming for reasons other than to just comfort them. Well, Hanun believed them, and he took David's servants and he shaved off half of their beards and he cut off their garments in the middle and he sent them away. So both of these actions, they were disgraceful insults to these Israelites. Well, when David heard about this, he told them to wait at Jericho until their beards had grown back. And at this point, the Ammonites, they saw that they had made themselves repulsive to David. And so they sent and hired Syrians to come in and help defend them. Well, when David heard of that, he sent Joab and all the army of the mighty men. And they formed this glorious fighting force that he sent out towards them. Well, when Joab went out with the men, he saw that the Ammonites were in front of them and the Syrians were behind them. And so he divided the army into two groups. And Joab only had one strategy in battle, and that was to attack. So a lot of generals at this point, when they found that they were surrounded on both sides, they would have surrendered to the enemy, but not Joab. He called the army to courage and faith and told them to press on. And I think this is so powerful for even some of the things that we are dealing with in our country and in our world right now. We have to remember the things that Joab is telling his men here, but we have to have courage and faith, and we have to press on. Even when things around us are scary, even when things around us aren't right, we have to press on and do what God has called us to do. So Joab made 3 really powerful points. He said, be of good courage and let us be strong. And then if we jump to the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 10, there's a verse that backs this up. It says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. So we have to be strong in the Lord no matter what situations we face, and in the power of his might. Okay, Joab also said, let us be strong for our people and for the cities of our God. So this battle was bigger than just themselves. This battle, it affected their people and their cities. And then the last thing he said was, may the Lord do what is good in his sight. So Joab, he prepared for the battle with the best of his ability, and he worked hard for the victory. But at the end of the day, at the same time, he knew that the outcome was ultimately in God's hands. So when we're going through things, we need to remember that, like, Lord, let the Lord do what is good in his sight, and let this turn out the way that the Lord pleases, the way that the Lord has planned. But back to this story, Joab ended up defeating the Syrians, and the Ammonites retreated to the city of Rabbah. But it doesn't even say that Joab engaged in battle with the Syrians, but that the army fled before the army of the mighty men because God was with them. So I love this so much because we don't know for sure that they even had to engage in battle, and the enemies fled. These men had God with them, and God sent their enemies fleeing because they trusted in him and they were following what he wanted them to do. So God promised that kind of blessing upon an obedient Israel. God is with us, and when we are obedient to him, God is going to send our enemies fleeing. We may not even have to lift a finger. We don't have to do anything, but God is going to handle every situation that we face. So in this story, though, when the Ammonites saw that the Syrians were retreating, they also retreated. And then when the Syrians saw that they had been defeated, they gathered together and they came back to fight again. And when David was told, he gathered the rest of the army of Israel, and the result was the Syrians fled from them again. So that was where chapter 10 ended. So again, sorry about the last 2 days. I really try hard not to miss days on here, but we are caught up now. So I hope that y'all have a great rest of your weekend. We will pick back up with chapter 11 on Monday. But if you have any prayer requests, please drop those in the comments. I would love to join you in prayer. If you've already sent those prayer requests, know that I'm praying with you. And I'm going to go ahead and pray before we end this video. So let's pray. God, we love you and we thank you, God, that you go before us. Lord, even when it looks like we're surrounded, even when it looks like there's no way out, God, when we put our trust in you, the impossible is no longer impossible. God, you are the God of the impossible, and we thank you for that. And we just put our trust and our faith in you. And God, I pray if there's anyone watching this video who does not know you, that they stop right now and ask you to become the Lord of their life. God, be with us, use us, and give us a boldness for you like we've never had before. I love you and I praise you in Jesus' name.